One issue in particular was the highlight of the last municipal election. It came on the heels of a particularly bad year for crime in the city. The murder rate was the highest in a decade, as were other crimes, and it quickly became an election issue. But this year, not so much.
The homicide rate in 2010 for Prince George was 8. Robberies spiked that year, as had many crimes like assaults. The following year, crime fighting was a campaign challenge. A task force was created by the newly elected council to tackle the issue. Since then, the numbers have dropped, but the perception of Prince George as a rough and tumble town riddled with crime is still out there.
To be frank, I don't believe we have in terms of perception. Of course, you know what my line is on whether we are or whether we're not. We're not, period. But perception is reality for a lot of people. When you have that label for 3 years, it becomes ingrained in some people's minds, despite the fact of whether you drop out of that lofty title.
While the city and the RCMP have made great strides in combating the actual crime rate, there's always room for improvement.
I don't think we'll ever be a 100% crime-free community, and there will always be someone who's had a bad experience that will feel that we haven't done enough. But the reality is crime is at its lowest rate in 40 years. But the cost of crime, the cost of policing and justice is at an all-time high. So people really want to feel safe in their community. This is a safe community to live in, and the vast majority of people who live on the right side of the law are living a great life in Prince George.
But the perceptions were repeatedly reinforced with consecutive rankings as Canada's most dangerous city by Maclean's magazine. The crime rate, as of 2013, has been on the steady decline, with the latest stats presented to Council earlier this month. But Maclean's magazine no longer publishes that survey.
Maclean's magazine never did their article this year, so we're right now the perpetual champions as such in this regard. So we're hoping, with better news stories that crime, is trending downwards. Our CSI, if it can drop every year, that's something we want to tell people.
Well, it's unfortunate that Maclean's didn't, perhaps address the fact that they're not continuing to brand a city as the most dangerous. So we never got the opportunity, I guess, to pass that on to some other city, but I'm good with that because I don't think any city really ever deserves that label.
In fact, according to StatsCan, Prince George has dropped to 14 on the Crime Severity Index. Canada's most dangerous city is seen by some as an unfortunate label and incorrect.
I think it was a little bit misplaced right at the beginning anyways. I think some media groups made a bigger issue of that than perhaps was necessary under the circumstances. I think the police and the community of Prince George have done a great job over the last 2 or 3 years to overcome that image, and they've done a lot of work in that respect.
However, the ask for mayor and councils into the future will be to ensure that level of safety remains and the perceptions of the city as a dangerous one are shed. Cheryl Jan, CKPG News.